Hey there, Ryan Black Real Estate Investor here, and in today's quick investing tip, I want to talk a little bit about cabinets and different cabinet replacement options. A lot of times this is a common question that comes up with new investors, particularly because cabinets can be a considerable expense when rehabbing a property. So, of course, if you have just really old, grungy, just nasty cabinets that there's no way of saving them, your probably best option is to demo them out and then put in new ones. And you have different options, right? You could go with a cabinet company. You could go with a local like Lowe's or Home Depot, and they have just right there on the floor, out of the box, cabinets that are ready. Or you can custom order cabinets. They can custom design and build them for you. Or you can, order inventory that they don't have in stock but are still standard sized cabinets. Like, you have different options, right, of what you can do. So you could have your handyman install them, or if you just hire a company, a third-party company, they will typically handle everything, manufacturing as well as installation. But that is the most expensive option. But sometimes, depending on the property price point, the size, and where it's located, and the local market, that might be your best option. But what happens if you don't want to, rip out and replace the cabinets? You want to do something else. Well, you could look at simply changing the doors, replacing the doors of the cabinets. So if the cabinets themselves are in good condition, maybe they need to be cleaned inside or whatever, but if they're good condition and it's a nice wood and you simply want to replace the doors, you could do that, right? You can replace the doors. Sometimes, depending on what hinges they used on the doors, you may also want to replace the hinges so that you can put hidden hinges. But sometimes the hinges are good and all you need to do is replace the doors. Sometimes you don't even need to replace the doors. You could simply replace the hardware, right? Maybe you just take off the old hardware because the handles are like really interesting looking. And so you can replace, like, the spacing on the screw spacing on the door, on the handles on the doors is standard. If it's just like a knob, then it's just a single hole, and so you can replace that with any knob pull. But if it's a handle pull, they have different widths, 3, 4, 5 inches. They have different standard spacings between the two screws that mount handles. So you can find replacement modern style handles that you literally pop off and then pop on, and it makes a big difference in how they look. So don't worry about about that. That's an easy fix. Sometimes just painting, right? You could just paint the existing cabinet doors and cabinets, paint them, leave the same hinges, replace the hardware, and you're good to go. Another option would be resurfacing by putting some type of new veneer over the existing cabinets, right? Typically, I haven't really seen people do that on doors. Usually if you're going to do resurfacing with some type of different veneer, you do that over the cabinets themselves. Maybe the cabinets, you can't really paint them, or they're just damaged or just wouldn't look good because it's a very grainy surface. So they'll just throw a new veneer over it and then replace the cabinet doors. And with that, they will look brand spanking new, right? They'll look amazing, and it's the same old cabinets that you had before. Now it would work if the cabinet size, layout, structure, everything is still good. They're still solid. A lot of the older cabinets from like 40, 50 years ago, those things are built like tanks. So like they're going to last longer than the house. You don't have to worry. A lot of the cabinets nowadays are really flimsy. They're made out of MDF and they're not very good quality. These are like solid hardwood, like plywood, like 6-7 ply. Like, they're really strong cabinets. So you don't have to worry. And so doing veneer and replacing the door could be, your best option. Remember, when looking at this, you want to not only consider your price, the price differences, you got to consider your turnaround time. How long is it going to take? How is that going to affect your rehab timeline? But also you got to think about your end buyer. What is your end buyer going to want? What are they going to want? What are they going to want to see in their property, right? If at that price point, in that neighborhood, that size house, that age of a house, are they going to expect brand new cabinets or refurbished cabinets? Is that going to be acceptable for them? Remember that if you're replacing the doors, you can replace the doors with whatever the latest style is. With the latest style door, you might have to change out the hinges, but you can really make it look updated and make it look great. Some cabinets you can paint. You can just paint over them, right? If they're an old, funky, kind of gross poop brown color, you could paint over them, paint them white or paint them gray, right? Which is what's really popular right now, white and gray cabinets. So if you do that, you do need to consider what kind of grain, what kind of wood are the cabinets made out of. And this applies for both doors and the cabinets themselves, because if there is a very thick, big grain, knotty alder, oak, or some of the worst ones, painting that is not going to look good. And even if they like putty in the grain and sand it down and make it smooth, you're still going to see the variations. It's just not going to look good. It gets to the point where if it requires enough labor to make some of those really grainy, knotty woods look nice for painting, you're better off just throwing on veneer or replacing with other cabinets, because it's just going to be more expensive. And still, it's kind of hodgepodge together. So, those are the most common options that I see that we've looked at or that we've done in replacing, upgrading cabinets. So, and bonus tip, when you have your old cabinet, if you're going to do a rip and replace, think about, what can I do with the old cabinets? A lot of times, if you've got maybe a laundry room, maybe out in the garage, right? There's different places where, rather than just getting in there with a sledgehammer and a crowbar and just like ripping everything out and going heyday, you can actually, carefully remove the cabinets, be it the uppers or the lowers, both, and you can go and install those in the laundry room, right? You can install those in the garage. And in that case, if you just hit it with some paint and they don't look the greatest, who cares? Especially in the garage, right? And if it's a lower end house, who cares? You got nice cabinets in the garage. People will like that. If it's a nicer house, you might want to be careful about doing that in the laundry room. People might expect higher end cabinets in the laundry room. But think about that. Think about repurposing. How can I repurpose these and use them somewhere else in the property rather than just throwing them into the dumpster bin? So cabinets, a lot of fun. Can be kind of pricey, but if you do it right, you'll be able to ensure that you rehab your property and your end buyer loves what you've done with it, and it'll sell quickly.